To order, roll call, please.
Alderman Art Woods.
It's more just like syntax, right?
Here.
Alderman Curielli. Alderman Carr.
Here.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
Here.
Alderman Fasano.
Here.
Alderwoman Ames.
Here.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Here.
And Alderman Catalano.
Here.
And we have a quorum. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 26, 2026 for the Finance and Administration Committee.
Second.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
Opposed.
And that passes. I do have one report and recommendation this evening. It is the fiscal year 27 budget overview discussion, round 2. Director Wilson, I believe you have some information to share.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Take it away.
All right, thank you. And good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So this is, I guess, what you'd call the more, I don't say traditional, but probably more what the older people that have been around for a while recognize as, I guess we'll say, the normal budget meeting versus one we had a couple weeks ago. So with that, we'll get into it. So we'll start with some background information, high-level information before we get in. As per always, we kind of have the overview of the fund types. We have the general fund, the special revenue funds. There's 8 of those we have currently. The capital projects funds, we have 2 of those. Enterprise funds, we have 3 of those. Internal service fund 1, and the fiduciary funds, 1 of those as well. A couple years ago, you may recall we had 2 fiduciary funds, but the special service area fund currently doesn't have any activity. There's no monies in there, so that one is dormant at this time. So it still exists, but there's nothing to present on it, so we just downgraded it to 1. Of those 16 active funds that we have, 5 have a proposed budget increase, 1 has no change, and 10 have a proposed budget decrease. Those are, generally speaking, drawdowns of fund balance, which are planned, capital projects, certain projects, things like that. So no real cause for alarm on any of those. Again, those are planned and anticipated drawdowns of fund balance in those particular funds. Capital spending, we went through with the CIP meeting. The city, we continue to be strategic with capital spending, aligning projects when we're possible and seek grant and alternative funding options, so grants, STP funding, things of that nature. So the process, again, kind of standard process. Each department or fund has a sheet in this slide deck that correlates, generally speaking, to a tab in the budget binder that you received. There are no expanded level items this year, so there's no green or red sheets in the budget in the book. We'll try to do our best to gain a consensus on each section before moving on. That being said, if something comes up or you get an idea a couple pages later or you forgot to ask a question, we can certainly go back. But again, to the greatest extent possible, try to get consensus as much as we can before moving on. So we'll begin with an overview of the entire budget, which we'll get to in a couple slides. Then we'll go through the general fund and the departments, divisions in there, special revenue, capital projects, et cetera, et cetera. March 12th, which is tonight, we'll go through as much of the budget as we can get through. Past number of years, we've gotten through the whole thing, so feeling optimistic. And then if not, we'll see in 2 weeks for whatever's left. So some housekeeping notes. Unless otherwise noted, personnel costs are up due to increase with salaries per the city policy and or union contracts. Healthcare costs, as we discussed a couple weeks ago, were up just under 18% based upon the preliminary renewal from IPBC. We'll be seeing the final renewal next week, but it's not going to move that much off of this number. Maybe a half a point here or there, but nothing significant. The city's IMRF rate decreased by about 0.33%. So that was helpful this year. When preparing the budget, it went down a little bit. IMRF through the stock market, their investments had better returns, so we all reap the rewards of that. On the slides, as per usual, the list of items listed for the reason for an increase or decrease. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's more of a notable change within that. So if something changed for $100 or $200, probably not going to put that, but if something changed for 10, 15, 20,000, we'll go ahead and note that. So it is a non-exhaustive list. So trying to hit the high points. And then ask questions as we go through the slides. So, if we get to, the finance department, you have a question, please feel free to ask a question, during then. Again, if we need to go back for something, that's fine, but we're trying to keep it as in line with the section we're in as possible. So kind of how this book came to be, you may recall back on the 26th, we had the macro meeting where we discussed some of the higher level concepts. We had that chart on the table, and then Ms. Springer, Ms. Purvis presented the building permit, to change the building permits. So out of that meeting, we got continue with the current pass-through fee approach for the building permits at this time, possibly re-examine in the future if there's a wish to. Not looking to reimpose the grocery tax at this time. No adjustment to the PD revenue for this time. Again, that might come to a future committee meeting later this year, but for right now, we did back those out because there wasn't a consensus on those. Update the building permit fees as presented a couple weeks ago, again by Ms. Springer and Ms. Purvis. And then no need to make any staffing adjustments aside from the ones that were included in the base budget, which we'll get to in a second. But there was on the right side, there was the possibility of elimination of an existing person, existing position, but as presented, that is not the case in here. That was pulled off the table. So staffing levels will remain status quo going into next fiscal year. So the all funds and revenues, this is without the transfers, so they just net each other out. You can see the revenues did go up a little bit, largely due to taxes and intergovernmental revenue, and the expenses higher due to some personnel costs, other being the police pension contribution largely, and then capital projects. Again, we have some of the larger capital projects that have kind of been rolling over from year to year. This year, it looks like the water tower is going to start construction. Looks like the bridge will probably start this fiscal year. So a couple of those other, the intersection, the signalization at Irving and Central. So that's one of the drivers of the expenses being up this year in aggregate. Probably my favorite slide, the expanded level item summary. There are none. This is a new slide this year. This was a request last year out of the budget meeting to ask for just kind of a presentation of all the transfers. And I apologize, apparently spell check did not catch the 6th or 7th one down. That should say general, not whatever word that is on the screen there, so I apologize for that. But these are the transfers that we have going in there. Aside from the very first one, the road and bridge to the general fund, the rest are all ones that have been in the budget for a number of years, or the TIF ones, those are for capital projects. The TIF through the CIP, that's the TIF's portion of the Middle Drive reconstruction, and then the $4.1 million to the water and sewer fund, that's for the water tower. Again, the rest of those have been pretty static over the years. The MFT ones, again, for the bridge, the bike path, and then for the intersection, the signalization. So this is a summary of the transfers that are included in the budget document. So this is the personnel updates. So these are the ones that were discussed and were retained, but again, there's no change to this. It's a little small, but it's these are the ones that were discussed that were already included in the draft document a couple weeks ago. So just getting into the high level of the general fund, the different departments in the general fund, we have administration, and the subcategories, community development, finance, police, the Board of Fire and Police, and the public works, and the subcategories in public works. So the general fund summary, and again, this was based on feedback from 2 weeks ago for the fiscal 27 budget. Fiscal 24, we're estimated to end with approximately just under $140,000 surplus. That's where we're trending out to currently. And this year, the fiscal 27 budget, as presented, has a surplus of just under $104,000. There's the breakout there between the revenues and expenses for the budget as presented. Going to the general fund, here's a summary of the expenses, or sorry, summary of the revenues. Some notes on this while we're on this page. Increase in taxes, primarily driven by property taxes, income tax, utility taxes, and sales tax. Telecom tax and use taxes are down. Specifically, the use tax is significantly down. The state has changed their relationship between use tax and sales tax, so that's why the sales tax number is up quite a bit, and the use tax is down pretty significantly. Don't want to bore you with all the details, but there's a significantly larger amount of items going through the state now through the sales tax method instead of the use tax method, which is why the sales tax number is up quite a bit, and the use tax is going almost virtually completely away. It's still there a little bit, but very much diminished. License and permits. Increase is largely driven by that change in the building permit calculation that we discussed 2 weeks ago. Charge for services is down. There's a dip in cable franchise fees as people continue to, get rid of traditional cable and just go to more of a streaming model in their homes. There is a slight increase in the police department reimbursement, but generally speaking, those cable franchise fees we're seeing a downward trend on those.
Alderman Hardywood.
Just a quick question on that. I know some probably home rule communities would be my guess, but are starting like a streaming tax. Do we not have that option with the cord cutting? Again, not that I'm suggesting any new tax, but just making sure I know what we can do.
Director Wilson.
IML has said that they're unclear whether the state allows non-home rule to have a streaming tax. And I don't want to speak for IML, but they basically said that since nobody's implemented it and been sued to see what a court says about it, they're unclear. So they're not telling people that you can't have one as a non-home rule entity. They're saying it hasn't been challenged in court yet, so there's no legal basis for it at this time unless somebody wanted to implement one and go through the whole court proceedings. So the home rule communities can. There was the case, it was first filed, Chicago I think was the first one that did it. There was a court case where somebody sued the city of Chicago and they won being home rule, so now there are a number of other home rule communities, to your point, that have done it. We have not found one, and IML was unaware of a non-home rule community that has done it. And again, they said that it's cloudy if it's allowed, and basically somebody's gonna have to do it and get the courts to opine on whether or not it's allowable or not.
Thank you.
Alderman Hartwood.
Yeah, on the license and permits, so the fiscal 26, 1.5 roughly, and 27, 1.9. Do we anticipate that we actually are going to hit the 1.5? Right? I mean, this, in my book it says 26 projected was 1.1. So right now we're 410K roughly behind. So if I'm looking at these numbers, I just want to know how real that number is.
Director Wilson.
Just to be clear, you mean the 1.9 number being real?
The
Or?
1.5.
Ah, very good.
Right, because 1.5 was what was budgeted, but it says right now the projected number in your book is 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
So 410.
Yeah.
Director Wilson.
Yeah. So.
Or page 5, whichever you prefer.
So the numbers in the FY26 column are what was budgeted. So that was the budgeted number, and the FY27 column is what's being presented
As the budget.
As the budget, correct.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just wondering, as we look at that and go, we're going to have a $405,000 increase. Are we actually going to hit 1.5 this year? Well, we're talking about a shortage, so if we're not hitting the numbers, then.
Director Wilson.
Yeah. So. Okay. So to your point, yes, in the budget, we're anticipating it being about 1.1, with about 400,000 of that being related to building permit revenue. So part of that, I think, is, we would say is that, a building that we thought was going to come in this year and permit didn't. But also seeing that, kind of based on the presentation from last week, seeing those numbers, I think that's also what was kind of a driver behind part of that conversation last week to change the methodology behind it. So to your point, the 1.5 million, we are indeed expecting to come in around 1.1 to 1.6, so between 1.1 and 1.2. So the $400,000 increase is on a budgetary basis. On an actual, on a projected to budgetary basis, it's about an $800,000 increase. And you may recall that I believe Ms. Springer said that the increase she was estimating, all things being equal year over year, was about 900,000. And so that's how that plays into that.
Yeah, so.
Follow-up?
Just one follow-up. Well, and that's what caught my eye, because those numbers don't match the numbers that we talked about. So then I looked at it and went, okay, so the comparative, I get it budget to budget, but the overriding question is, how likely is it that we're gonna hit the 1.9? I guess that's the big question for me. So I understand all the other numbers, but if we're 400K off last time, no fault of ours, I'm not saying it was, that's just, the market does what the market does, and we're putting this the budget together, and we're not, like, in my opinion, making it a little tighter than it is now. How likely is it that we hit that number?
Director Wilson?
That would be huge if that number comes in 400,000 under for.
Correct, yeah. I'd maybe defer to Ms. Springer on that one. I think we're the number was built based upon the change of the calculation method, and in discussing with Springer what we expect next year to come in from a building permit standpoint, which I think is the Cyrus one.
Let me ask one. So
Okay.
I don't think that Ms. Springer can offer me any more information than she did last time, right?
Fair.
Because she doesn't have a crystal ball, I get that. I guess what I'm saying is, shouldn't we be planning for that it's a possibility of 400,000 in the budget as opposed to, right? If we need to make a cut, we need to make the cut now, and if we come in and everything works out, hallelujah, it all worked out. I'm a little nervous that if the numbers we're projecting don't come in, right? Interest drops on investments, right? Pension funds go up, permits and fees fall short, forfeitures, fines and fees fall, people stop buying, sales tax dips a little bit. Doesn't take too many things in that list to put us in trouble, right? So that's my concern. That's the overriding question. And again, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but I would like to see greater flexibility in the budget.
Mr. Murmas?
I'd like that too. However, I think this year we're actually a little bit more conservative than usual and have more wiggle room than usual. We're always right up against the, short surplus projected. So it's really no different than any other year. So last year we didn't put ourselves $400,000 of wiggle room. So it's really standard procedure for the past number of years to be in the spot. So unless we would make a drastic cut, we could do that, but this is pretty much standard for what we've been doing.
Follow-up?
I agree. All the time I've been up here, everything we've done is standard, and this is the first year that we came up with $1.25 million, $1.5 million shortfall, and so I'm just saying, could we or should we be a little more cautious, being we're trying to fill that gap, and we're filling that gap by creating new fees and raising expenses, and if those, not expenses, well, we are raising those too, but raising fees and projecting the income, if those fall short, that's all.
Alderwoman Fonseca?
So I think the topic of discussion was specifically around the license and permits, and that increase was primarily based on the discussion that we had last week, where we went to the 1%, or is it based off of something? Okay, so, I mean, it makes sense then, if that was the case.
All right, please continue. Oh, sorry, Alderman Catalano.
Yeah, as we go through the budget, could you reference to the page in the book so it help out some of our new council members here? So flipping through. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Please continue, Director Wilson.
No problem. So we're on page 47 and 48. And Alderman Woods' point noted. So. Okay. Continuing on with the notes, the decrease in the fines, fees, and forfeitures, largely related to certain police department revenues declining. And those fines, fees, and forfeitures are on the top of page 48, that detailed information. Investment income, down a little bit. Nothing too alarming there. Like I said, the rates are starting to come down a little bit, and a decent chunk of that was IPBC interest, but with the health insurance rates going up, it kind of eats into that erodes that away a little bit. Miscellaneous, pretty much flat. Interfund transfers up to $100,000. Again, that's the addition of that road and bridge fund transfer that wasn't in last year's budget. Those are just the notes. Going to the summary of expenses. For the general fund, bear with me 1 second. These are largely detailed by department on page 26 through about 29. And then they are summarized on page 49 of the document as well. So again, personnel, just the standard increases like we referenced before. Contractual, decreasing contractual is driven by decreases in pretty much all departments except for admin, which is up due to legal. We'll get to that in a second, but that's the driver of contractual. Again, pretty much every other department has a decrease in contractual this year. Commodities, down just a little bit, kind of it's a smattering across the board. Capital outlay, largely due to no expendable items, and there was a reduction in police department equipment. Working with the chief, they're splitting up some of their purchases over 2 years instead of trying to do everything in 1 year. Then other is largely related to the police pension fund contribution increase, which was offset by a decrease in sales tax sharing agreements, largely driven by Forward Space moving out of town. So moving into administration. So now for pretty much the remainder of this, the headers are going to pretty much line up with the tab in the budget book. So the information will be behind that particular tab in the budget book. So this is administration. So high level, personnel. Again, we mentioned the contractual. Again, there's increases in legal and some in the HR function. Again, commodities and other very nominal changes. So this is the breakup by division. Legal is related to potential litigation costs. So litigation is going to be a lawsuit or other things that requires our attorneys basically go to court or deal with court proceedings above and beyond their standard operating that they do with the city. HR, HCM, the increase is largely related to professional services, so just nominal uptick, in payroll processing, unemployment services. But really the bigger kick is the property casualty and workers' comp insurance. which you saw those renewal numbers back in December, so those are built into this budget for this year going forward. That's what I have for admin.
Thank you. Please continue.
Moving on to community development. Biggest thing is the contractual decrease in professional services related to inspections and reviews. I know we had discussed not passing some of those through, but also as CD has gotten more accustomed, more akin to using those services, they've become more efficient and been able to manage those costs better. So there was a decrease in those costs, again, just through some efficiencies within the department and how they're operating over the last couple of years. Finance, decrease in contractual related to costs related to the vehicle sticker program that were eliminated. And then the decrease in other, again, the decrease in the sales tax rebate, again, largely based upon the fact that Forward Space moved out. The Thornton's agreement has pretty much been on par the last couple of years, and the other one that's in there is the Patterson agreement. We are coming into the last year of that agreement, so I'm sure we'll see if they want to extend that or how they want to move forward with that agreement sometime during this calendar year. The police department. Just, I know the personnel, again, they're fully staffed at this point, so we did have to account for that in this budget. There's potential of a couple retirements within the department, so we have taken those into account as well, but that's why their staffing number's up a little bit more than normal to account for that full staffing at this point in time. Decrease in contractual is related to the maintenance agreements. Line item specifically, which is largely related to the flock cameras. Now that I believe they're all in, the majority of them's in, we have a better handle on what those costs are on an annual basis. Because before, we put, I think, the ones that we could put in, then we were waiting on what IDOT for some and then DUDOT for some. So they were rolled out not all at once, so those costs were coming in at different times. So now that they're all in, again, we have a better handle on what those costs
Director Wilson, I just have a question. Maybe this is for the chief too. So with the flock system, now that everything's in, do we have like a multi-year agreement with them so that we know what those costs will be each year? And how long is it for, if we do have that?
Defer to the chief.
Yeah, I believe we're currently in the second year, coming up on the third year of a 5-year agreement.
And is that for all cameras being operational? And
Yes.
they hadn't been up until
Yes.
this point, so, okay. All right, thank you. Alderman Artie Woods?
Brad, you said a couple of potential retirements in police. Maybe the chief can comment, but I thought it was one. And is the budget considering backfilling those, or we're talking about not backfilling 2 spots throughout the year? Just to be clear.
So, would be not backfilling 1.
Of 2 potential retirements?
Correct. Potentially.
With the 120, this might be a naive question, but with the 120,000 surplus, wouldn't we have enough money to potentially offset the one short? To remain fully staffed with police?
Director Wilson?
Correct. There is a scenario where that could be achieved and attained, yes.
I know we can't figure that out until we know when it is, but thank
Correct,
you.
yeah. But there is a scenario where that could be the case, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, again, the decrease in capital, like I said, was the operating equipment, the chief. They're splitting up some of their purchases over 2 years instead of 1 year to bring that down a little bit. And then other, again, that's predominantly the police pension contribution per the actuarial request from the police pension fund by way of Lauterbach and Amon.
Mayor, please.
Brad, just so we're clear, as far as the police, everybody's figured in there right now in this budget, fully staffed, right? We're not short any officers now. I think we're fully staffed for the first time in, 7 years? Okay, so
Correct, yeah.
Director Wilson.
we are fully staffed right now, but may retire, may not retire. We'll deal with that one again.
Alderman Artwood.
Are we fully staffed or we're short one person? I thought we were short one.
Right now, today, we are fully staffed. There's the possibility of 1 or 2 retirements in the next fiscal year.
Well, I thought prior or without the retirements. Okay, so thank you.
Okay, please continue.
Board of Fire and Police Commission. Last year was a big testing year. This year, I guess not so much, unless the patrol needs another test. I don't think there's any testing this year scheduled, correct? Yeah. So I know a couple of years ago we had the sergeant. Last year we had patrol. This year it's kind of one of those years where there's no test built in to the program.
Mayor, please.
This for the chief. I don't know if you're going to know the answer, but I know we went through the list after the testing, right? Do we go way down the list? Sometimes it takes 20 applicants before you find 1 or 2, right?
Chief,
Still a good list?
Yeah, right now, we're a little bit below 50% of the list. We just did 4 backgrounds on entry-level officers. I met with the Board of Fire and Police last night. We reviewed those 4. 2 of them are moving on in the process. 2 of them are being disqualified. And we just need to be ready for if we do have a retirement and if the budget allows for us to fill that 35th in the next fiscal year, that we can try to plan to get somebody into the next academy.
Okay, that's what I thought.
thank you. Please continue.
Move on to Public Works Administration. Decrease in contractuals or reduction in engineering services. That's more related to some of those right-of-way permits that we haven't been charging for, that we're looking to charge for in the new fiscal year.
Mayor, please.
You said right away, you talking about the fiber optics? Is that what you're talking about? The
Director
right away?
Wilson.
So there's those. There's some interesting rules on which ones of those we can charge and which ones we can't charge, but there would be other right-of-way permits too. I don't know, Mr. Lang, if you know of any other types of permits we've been having recently, but there's some of the fiber ones we can charge, some we cannot, but there's other right-of-way permits that come in that would look to charge a fee to.
Okay.
Thank you. Please continue.
Facilities maintenance. Increase in contractual, going through the detail, mostly related to cost with City Hall. Not necessarily anything new, but to be more in line with costs from the current fiscal year and what we're seeing with the new contracts that have been let with the past few months. So again, nothing specifically problematic, just updating it to be more in line with, again, what the fiscal 26 numbers, how they're trending to come in. Then the commodities are related to 790. Again, it's $500, so not a big change, but.
Okay, please continue.
Sure. Streets Division, decrease in contractuals related to landscaping. Some landscaping costs, which we'll get to the other side of that in a few slides. And then the decrease in commodities related to snow and ice control, which is the beet juice, the salt brine that was moved to MFT. We did get confirmation finally after many years that the state is now allowing the beet juice to go through MFT, because for many years they were not allowing that. So we did confirm with a couple of different engineering firms that have many clients that they're putting it on their forms now, and it is being approved by the state. So that was helpful after all this time.
Alderman Artwood.
The decrease in contractual related to reduction in landscaping, is that landscaping for one of our landscape programs, or that's outsourcing landscaping for the city proper?
Director Wilson?
Sure. So landscaping for city-owned parcels or city-owned property.
Follow-up?
Yeah, thank you. So is the reduction because we brought it in-house?
Director Wilson?
No. So the other side of this equation, well, there's two sides to the equation. It's an interesting equation. Part of it is in tourism. 'Cause remember last year, we moved some of the landscaping to tourism for the clock tower and some of those areas. And then another part of it was, as Mr. Lang and his team were going through, they identified that some of the landscaping was more attributable to the water facilities. So some of the offset to this went to tourism. So this in a few slides, we'll see a little bit of an uptick in landscaping and tourism. Then there was a slight uptick in the water and sewer fund for this as well. Again, because it was identified that the landscaping was taking place on those properties attributable to the water and sewer fund, not necessarily the general fund. So,
Thank you. Alderwoman Fonseca?
So staying right back there on landscaping, all in all, what was the impact on landscaping after moving all these funds to the different buckets?
Director Wilson?
pretty much net zero. Just reallocating where they're being charged.
Alderman Artie Woods?
Kind of to go back to Public Works, and this might be a Director Lang question, but a large portion of the city's water and sewer mains are between 45 and 65 years old. It talks a lot about the fear of needing to replace those sooner rather than later, right? And it's, I'm assuming, a huge cost. What is the likelihood? I know, again, no crystal ball, but what is the likelihood of that needing to happen, and what would the cost be, or is that something we could always Band-Aid fix until we have the money to do it?
Director Lang?
Defer to Mr. Lang, yeah.
Sure.
So the plan going forward to try to take advantage of, contractor mobilization and economies of scale is to kind of partner the water main replacement program with the capital road program. So next year we'll be resurfacing Dunley Court and Dunley Street in Ward 1, and we'll be replacing sections of the water main along with that. We will also have to do some standalone water main replacements in some other areas, and probably namely Irving Park Road will need to be addressed in the near future here. So we'll be fitting those into the capital improvement plan in coordination with other projects and available funding.
So just a quick follow-up, that shouldn't be a surprise in fiscal year 27 that they need to be replaced, right? That could be something repaired.
Yeah, we're not going to
until it's-
propose to replace the whole city's main in any given fiscal year, so.
I figured, I'm just making sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Going on to vehicle maintenance. Really nothing too significant here. Curiously enough, though, the decrease and the increase are both related to maintenance of other equipment. So a little bit of an uptick in contractual for other equipment, and the slight decrease in commodities for other equipment. Just a fun little nugget on that one. And that is actually it for the general fund.
Alderman Artie Woods?
For the vehicle maintenance, I was just thinking about, so we have SURF funds, right, for all the cars where they're swapped out every 5 to 7 years. Would there be any savings to the general fund if we extended that, or is all that money automatically going into SURF fund for each vehicle, or how does that work?
Director Wilson?
Sure. So if I don't answer your question,
Yeah,
just let
yeah.
me know. But so when we calculate the funding for the SURF fund, we take, depending on the type of vehicle it is, generally a fifth or a sixth of the cost of that vehicle, and start to kind of pre-fund that. So if we were to extend the life of the vehicles, or the useful life of the vehicles that we keep in operation from 5 to 7 years, and let's just say we take a fifth of that, that would allow for there to be like a 2-year gap before we start to pre-fund that next vehicle. Or if it went from 7 to 10, that would allow a little extra room in there to breathe.
I just know vehicles for all departments are crazy expensive now, and I'm just thinking if there's any way, it's probably not a ton of money, but if there's any way to get some money back in the general fund by not replacing vehicles every 5 or 6 years and doing it every 7 or 8 years, I don't know if that's realistic or not.
Yeah, I'd have to defer to Mr. Lang, but I know some of the vehicles have started to spread out. Just anecdotally, I know when I started, we replaced cop cars every 2 years. And I think they're up to, was it 4 or 5 now, or 5? Yeah, so when I started, it was every 2 years or 3 years. And so now it's out to 5. So I think kind of over time, that is happening a little bit. But I know Mr. Lang, Mr. Bezdacek, and those guys, they do a good job of, do you have any other comments on that, Dave? Sure.
Yeah, I'll say, we don't just replace vehicles because, of an assumed useful life. Every vehicle starts with an assumed useful life, and then it's reevaluated on a yearly basis for different criteria, given an efficiency score, and that's what we use to determine when it should be replaced.
Right.
So sometimes that's 10 years, sometimes that's 12 years. It really just depends on the individual vehicle.
Yeah, with lack of new revenue sources, I'm just trying to think of any outside the box. If we could extend it a year, my question mainly was, does that money transfer into the general fund, or is that just stacking up in each vehicle's surf fund? You know what I mean? If it's not real money that could go back in the general fund, then my question doesn't even matter. You know?
Director Wilson?
Sure, yeah. So if it's already been transferred to the SURF fund, then it stays there.
It stays there until a new vehicle's purchased. for that.
Correct, yeah.
Perfect.
But if they identify that the last 5 F-250s we've got have lasted 7 years instead of 5, and we start to spread that out on the schedule, then that would
Lower the amount. that's
lower the
coming
amount.
in.
Correct, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Mayor, please.
So just to follow up on that, so a few years back, then we have like over $2 million in that SURF fund, and then that year we didn't do the transfer, right? So we keep an eye on the fund. I think right now it's, I want to say it's right around just under $1 million, but it had gotten over $2 million.
Director Wilson?
No, that's correct. And so, yeah, a couple years ago, we stopped doing the transfer to the general fund to help the general fund get
Right.
through these few years. Also during, a couple years ago during COVID or whatever, there just weren't cars to buy. I remember the one that I filled out, it was maybe 6 months ago. The car had been approved in 23 and we got it in 25. And I know the manager called me and he's like, hey, I think you messed up the date on this. I'm like, no, I didn't. So now the cars are a little more available, and I think some of it's getting caught up on some of that. But to your point, though, yeah, we are going to have to start going back to funding the SURF out of the general fund in the coming years to make sure that it doesn't get ran too far down.
And I just have kind of a follow-up with that as well. So I know some of the very large public works trucks are extremely expensive and can be, $500,000 for like the Vector, or, to buy the truck, and then you have to get it retrofit for something. Do we have anything coming up with those type of purchases in the next few years that would really take a hit on that fund? Anything planned?
I'd have to look. That's a few tabs away.
Oh,
I can
sorry.
look when we get there.
Sorry.
No, I mean, just, again, a few years ago, when we couldn't get Fords, I think, for a while, at the F-250s or whatever. We couldn't get them. The Vector that the utilities had demoed was available. And when Mr. Lang, we added up the vehicles we couldn't buy, it basically equaled the Vector. So we just flipped them in the schedule and bought the Vector. Because I think at the time it was, a 24 or 36-month lead time for the Vector. So we couldn't get Fords, and then we weren't going to get the Vector. So we pivoted and then just moved the Fords back a year. But yeah, we can look when we get to there. But
Okay.
but it does provide some flexibility in case something like that does come up. Yeah, we'll take a look when we get there.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Sure. So like I said, that is the last part of the general fund, vehicle maintenance. So moving into the special revenue funds. Here they are listed. Well, there's a slide for all of them, but that's the presentation for all of them. So going into road and bridge. Again, really the increase this year. Last year, there was no transfer to SURF or the general fund. This year, there was So this year, there was no, let me rephrase that, there was no budgeted transfer to the SURF fund last year. One of the vehicles that came in did require a transfer, so that'll show up in the actual when we get there, but it wasn't budgeted for. In 27, 165,000 is the remainder of that vehicle purchase, and then the new 100,000 to the general fund, which we showed in the general fund presentation. Going on to motor fuel tax. In contractual services, generally the streetlight maintenance, the increase in interfund. Again, this was really no surprise. The Elizabeth Drive path, we're doing this, which is the match on that for the path, multi-use path, the match for the bridge, and then the full funding for the signal at Irving Park and Central Avenue. So that's what's accounted for in that transfer. And then just in contractual is just the regular snow and ice and things of that nature. Or commodities, excuse me. Tourism, this year tourism, largely status quo, but the increase, to Alderman Woods' question a few minutes ago, the increase in contractual is largely related to landscaping. Just as Mr. Lang and his team were going through and identifying those costs as the year went on, became obvious that more were attributable to the clock tower type areas than we had previously thought last year during the budget conversation. And then the decrease in other, just some reduced costs overall for special events, but it's, 5,000 here, 7,000 here, so it's just a smattering here and there, netting out to a decrease of a little over 18,000 overall.
Alderman Artie Woods.
So I have a lot, I won't take up too much time, but I have tons of questions on the tourism fund and its constant negative balance. But one question that came up right away, the senior bus driver, is that salary included in here along with the other two? What were the other 1.5 salaries for the
Director
senior?
Wilson.
No, that was moved to the streets department.
Okay. The expenditures for Prairie Fest, is there income offsetting that with the sponsorships that we've gotten the last couple of years? Or is that, when we get a sponsorship, is that put into the general fund, or does that go right towards?
Director Wilson.
Sure. No, it goes into the tourism fund. So it's on 89. 39405 is Prairie Fest revenue. So this year we're projected at the 187. Next year we're projecting 175. So that's the sponsorship.
That's the carnival, the sponsorships.
Correct.
All, everything included. So the 187 is offsetting the 308.
Correct.
So I guess my last question, I have some other offline questions, but the last one, so why do those salaries come out of the tourism fund? Why is that the only department that's?
Director Wilson.
So the salaries that come out of there, those employees, so it's the one full salary and then the half salary, yeah. So the determination was made, well, multi-part answer, but the full-time salary, that's, I think, pretty much her entire job, right, is the special events. And then the part-time is the admin in administration, or the executive assistant administration, who helps out pretty significant amount, but also does the other tasks for the manager, the weekly packets, things of that nature. In the past, we had budgeted all those salaries in the general fund and then just did a transfer back to the general fund to account for those salaries and to cover those costs. I think it was last year, we just, instead of doing that transfer back, we just made the determination to just put the salaries in there straight away, and then not have the transfer back to the general fund for the tourism fund.
I just feel like since we talked about, I'm a big proponent of the events, and I'm not suggesting moving that would change anything, but the balance, negative 478, negative 321, negative 244, negative 260, it's with salaries included and the cost of Prairie Fest being so high, that number is never going to be a positive unless I'm missing something, right? I mean,
Director Wilson.
Yeah, so
I'm always told we're losing money in the tourism fund, right? But we're always going to lose money. There's no more revenue, so how do we, unless I'm missing something?
Sure. So if you look at the bottom of page 90, the blue column, the second to last number, the positive 100,000. So as presented, we're saying that the tourism fund is anticipated to generate $100,000 more than it's spending, leaving that fund balance at the negative 169. So all things being equal, if that were to repeat for the next 2 years, then it would be back to a positive fund balance. So it is trending in the right direction these last few years, getting closer back to break even, which I think, I would say was anticipated, but we knew it wasn't going to flip, year one.
Sure.
But there is the steady growth back up towards the positive fund balance.
And once we get to that point, does that money just start moving right back to the general fund, or can we actually use that for some events and other things?
Director Wilson?
So that largely would be a council decision
Sure.
on what you wanted to use those funds for, but it would be theoretically available for special events if that was the desire of the council at that time.
And last question, I promise, the proposed $34,500 for the Convention Bureau, that's the Meet Chicago Northwest, I'm assuming?
Correct.
Did we determine if that's required anymore to receive any grants or anything? I don't know if we ever fully.
It does help us receive grants, but I mean, it's totally up to us if we
Okay.
want to continue participating.
Sure, I know we're not going to talk about that tonight, but I just thank you.
Mayor, please.
Yeah, speaking about the events, I know I've mentioned it before, but the Prairie Fest is probably the biggest driver on a lot of these expenses, right? We've added more security and fencing, and where years ago we didn't have all that stuff. Maybe we should look at doing, instead of 6 concerts, do 9 or 10 and go away with the 4-day event, because I think we could probably get better bands for the Sound of Summer, save some money. And as far as like Resident Appreciation Night, I'm sure we can figure something out. Maybe it's something we should discuss. But if everybody wants the fest, the 4-day event, that's the 4-day event. But maybe we should look at going to 9 or something and doing some type of resident appreciation on one of those concerts or something, just 'cause I know a few communities have gone away with that. I mean, we'd have to figure out fireworks. I know everybody wants fireworks at some point, right? So not going to decide that tonight, but maybe something for discussion.
Alderman Artwood?
Yeah, so I'm always open to ideas, but I don't understand how taking potentially 2 days off of Prairie Fest and adding them to Sounds of Summer
Mayor, please.
reduces the cost.
Well, number one, Sounds of Summer, I think the budget, what is it, 20,000, 15,000? On the bands here, it's 35,000. So we spend a little more on bands, but the big driver is, the security part of it is 24,000, right? And need to have security, of course, big event like that. The carnival makes us some money, but we had to change our week because they didn't want to do the same week next year, so we're a week earlier this year. The carnival guys, ever since we started this, I don't know, we on our 6th or 7th carnival, they're really not reliable, these guys. They just, if they don't feel they're making enough money at your fest, they do something else, and they don't care. Where the concerts we control, I mean, listen, I'm open to all suggestions. I think we should have events, right? Maybe you get somebody to come out. I don't think somebody's going to do a carnival, just a carnival without bands. And maybe they will, I don't know, but we fence a big area. I'm not sure what those costs are exactly. I don't recall. I know the security is 24,000, which is important. And we light up the whole place, right? All the generators and everything, rentals and all that stuff. Maybe we can think outside the box, still have nice events and resident appreciation, right? You don't want to get rid of that. Bingo nights, something. Again, you're not going to discuss that here right now, but just something maybe we should look at.
Thank you. Please continue. Oh, sorry, Alderman Artwood?
Yeah, I'm still, and to your point, we won't discuss it tonight, but we almost seem like we are. if we're gonna eliminate from one event to expand on another, I'm having a time understanding how then one needs security, the other one doesn't, and if one doesn't, then why does the other? So is that a way, those are costs that we added every year that we fence, more fencing, more security, more layers. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be security. But other events in other communities get away with far less fencing, don't have the added outside sourcing of security. You know, and to the carnival, other communities have the same carnival for 10 years in a row. I mean, there's got to be a way to do it. Now, either we weren't thinking ahead of time to tie them in for more years. I don't know what it is, but other people do it. I just get confused of why. You know, we got a pretty good group of people here, staff and council, that we can't figure this out. That's all I'm saying. I'm open to suggestions to do different things, but when we start saying we can save money by changing to a different venue, if we have the same group of people, same wide open area, the same concerns, I don't know how then we can say we can eliminate the cost of security because it's needed over here but not over here. So again, we're not going to solve that tonight.
Okay. Director Wilson, please continue.
Thank you. Moving on to narcotics forfeiture, costs associated with the K-9 unit. Pretty much status quo from last year. It's a fun one. So TIF 1, Thorndale Corridor TIF. Walk you through this one a little bit. So at I don't remember if it was last year's budget or if it was an interim meeting, there was a request made to kind of break things down a little bit more within the TIF fund and the TIF presentation. So if you're looking at page 95 of the book, previously, pretty much everything aside from the debt service had been kind of ran through, quote unquote, professional services. Again, the comment was made that that wasn't necessarily representative of what was going on with the fund. So we added the TIF infrastructure line item under capital outlay, and then we also added the additional TIF reimbursement incentive line item. So that would be for monies related to the other taxing bodies coming in that were receiving money, or another business that were to come in and request money. So those would be presented in that reimbursement/incentive line item, as opposed to the professional services. And then any work related to infrastructure work related to the TIF, again, is now in that TIF infrastructure account number as opposed to the professional services. So again, based on the comment, we tried to break this out to make it a little more transparent with what was flowing through these particular accounts. So when you look at the year-to-year budget, the contractual services is down quite a bit because again, those costs were realigned into these different accounts and new categories. The principal interest payments, again, that's a teeter-totter, so one goes up, one goes down, but it's effectively flat year over year. Again, the capital outlay was increased because it's new this year. Again, to be a little more transparent with where what function the monies of the TIF fund were going to. And then other is new again, showing those payments to other taxing bodies. So again, that's predominantly going to be the fire district and I believe the park district in there for next year. So again, we went from having really just one or two line items in there to breaking it out a decent amount more to try to be a little more transparent with where some of those funds were going, easier to identify where they were going.
Thank you.
Just the notes. TIF 2, similar type situation. The contractual services, or any ongoing, don't expect there to be a lot, but legal or consulting fees related to the apartment project next door. Again, not expecting a lot, but put some money in there. And again, the capital outlay in that TIF infrastructure are costs related to the ComEd relocation on the old 7-Eleven site at the southeast corner of Commercial and Wooddale Road. And then once the apartment building gets completed, then you start seeing some more costs go through as we have to reimburse Holiday and make the payments to the school district, library, et cetera. But for right now, while it's under construction, we don't have those costs at this time, so that's why there's still a pretty thin expense list in TIF 2 right now.
Alderman Artwood?
Do you have an idea when that would start to generate some substantial revenue? Is that a 3-year window? Right, we have to pay off Holiday and some other things, but you know what I'm saying?
Director Wilson?
Excuse me. So the in-pin increment, so any increment that Holiday generates, they're going to get 100% of that back less the nominal admin fee that we have. So we're still going to just be dealing with the Halo revenue, just the surrounding properties. You know, if there's another project that gets built out there on some of the other green space, then unless there's a TIF agreement that we're unaware of that's coming, then that would really pump that number up. Pretty much, obviously, you know, the property taxes are a year behind, but once that project gets built, then pretty much 100% of that revenue would just go straight into the TIF. So I would say the Holiday project is going to be pretty close to the end of the life of the TIF before it gets paid off. But if there's other projects out there on some of the green space or the space that's currently assessed at 0 because it's municipally owned, then that would kind of be that shot in the arm to pump that up and get some revenues in there. So that would just be based on timing of when that project would get constructed.
Follow-up?
Yeah, so is there I know a lot of smart people put these numbers together. Is there a scenario where the value of that would exceed what our projections are and net us some positive revenue?
Director Wilson?
Sure, I think the, you know, SB Freeman, they generally produce most of those forecasts, and they are historically and agreeably conservative with their numbers. So I think we all anticipate that that building's going to assess out for probably more than what they were estimating. And again, they're intentionally conservative just to not get people out over their skis on projects.
Yeah.
And then really the issue is going to be the children. If there's a lot of children, school-age children going to 7 or Fenton in there. So if there's fewer of those, fewer children in there that we have to reimburse the school districts for, then that's going to be additional revenue to get that paid down sooner. And there is a cap on the payout to the school districts. So, but hopefully, you know, they'll be assessed a little bit higher than the projections. And then, I don't want to say hopefully there's less kids, because that sounds really bad, but that sounds bad. But that's really going to be another driver of that calculation. Because again, the Friedman calculations assumed the statutory max. So if it's anything less than the statutory maximum payout, then that would get that paid down sooner to free up that capital on the back end of that for the cities, or for the TIF's utilization at that point.
Follow-up?
Yeah. So the child/school district portion is on the city outside the Holiday agreement. Yes? Is that what you're saying?
Director Wilson?
I'll answer and then we'll see if so the increment that's generated by the Holiday project that's going to go on to the tax bill, 100% of that goes to Holiday, less the admin fee to the city and less the statutory payouts to the school and the library.
Correct. But then you stated if more kids and projected, right, somebody pays the school district, that somebody is the TIF district. Yes? That doesn't in any way affect the amount that we pay to Holiday.
Director Wilson?
No, it just, Holiday's going to get their money, they have the agreed upon money. If we hit the statutory max, the 30% for the school payments, that's just less money each year that would go to Holiday. So if we only pay out, let's say, 10% to the
Okay,
schools.
so it would be one before the other. All right.
Correct.
That answers it.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Please continue.
Going to TIF 3, really nothing that exciting here in TIF 3. Just yeah, so really there's just a little bit of money budgeted for next year, just in case there's any legal expenses or anything that comes up. We're not anticipating anything at this time, but we just wanted to put some a nominal budget placeholder in there in case something does come up. TIF 4. The only expense, again, that's known this year is the interest on the bonds. Going forward, TIF 3 and TIF 4, they are separate TIFs technically, but the way the bond pledge was written is that the increment is going to come from TIF 3 and 4. So going forward, TIF 3 and 4, since they share a boundary per TIF law, they can share money. So the first data center is in TIF 3 because it's in that northern half. So that will be where the increment is generated in TIF 3. And so then going forward, for the time being, then that debt service will probably, be paid out of TIF 3 since that's where that data center is. But really TIF 3 and TIF 4, for the purposes of paying those bonds down and ultimately off, are going to be treated effectively as one TIF, kind of moving forward, even though they're two legally separate TIFs.
Alderman Artwood.
Yeah, and those two TIFs, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
What was the basis over there? What was the real estate tax EAV starting point? Was the starting point the value of the properties as purchased, or the values of the properties after they were leveled and vacated?
Director Wilson.
So I don't have the base for 4 yet. I anticipate to get that in the next couple weeks when we get the levy information from the county. 3, I believe the number was around $1.5 million. So I'm not sure which side of that it was.
Total for the TIF 3?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure where in the process there were houses or it was the raised value or not, but it was around $1.5 million was the base.
But that would be the total tax generated. Are other taxing bodies still getting money from that area? So this is this, okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
That's the base, yeah.
Mayor, please.
Wait, the taxing bodies are getting the previous taxes. Now that the data center's going in, and you said the EAV is $1.5 million for section 3 for those homes, that first section of homes or whatever. And the anticipated EAV for the first building is? Do you have an idea? Maybe not. You might not have an idea.
Director Wilson or Director Springer?
No.
Can't
Okay.
say, right?
No,
Okay, well.
I'm sure it'll be in a manager's report once you guys find
Yeah,
something
I
out. No
have a number in my head, I don't remember, but we got the numbers. I don't remember how tight-lipped they want us to be on the numbers, so we'd have to see the Cyrus one. Yeah, I have a number in my head, but I don't want to say it if I'm
No worries.
wrong, so.
I was just curious, because I know from asking you how the Nippon building was, right, I know there was 30 homes there, and we figured everybody was collecting, all taxing bodies. Wooddale was not one of them because they weren't annexed. It was on 200,000 per se for everybody, for all those homes. It was paid in tax, not the EAV, right? But the one building now pays over 700,000. So it's an increase of 500,000 over what it was. So I'm anticipating something similar, and I hear data centers are generally taxed higher than a warehouse, so I was just curious, that's all.
Director Wilson?
Yeah, again, I don't remember the exact number, I don't want to misspeak, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do know, I do remember that it was higher than the Nippon number. It was a greater number than the Nippon number.
Okay,
I remember
Yeah,
that for sure. Just-
no worries.
Alderman Artwood?
Yeah, and I know it's gonna be a huge number. I was just trying to determine what our base was. And again, all houses standing, purchased by the aggregator for whatever that number was, 30 million? Is that what the basis was? Or was it, they bought them and they demoed them and now they're vacant land? That was my question. I know that there's gonna be, an extreme increase over what it was, either one. I just was trying to determine what the starting point was when we look at it.
Director Wilson?
Let's see, I think once we get the AV information, the base for 4, we'll have a better idea of that, and then I can reach out to the county to try to get a better understanding. I know it's not gonna be 0 because of when they were annexed and when we created the TIF.
Right.
Again, it's my understanding that some of these kind of outlier purchase prices were not included in the calculation. They do more of the, kind of what they had assessed it at, as opposed to that, what they actually got paid for it. But again, once we get that number, I can reach out to the county and try to confirm that.
Okay. Thank you. That's just to keep score. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Please continue.
Capital project funds. As Mayor called a while ago, I said one fund had no change, the land acquisition fund, no net change. The capital projects fund, I'll just go right to it. We had the CIP meeting back on January 22nd. The figures presented in the grid represent any changes, if any. I don't believe there were any. But that's inclusive of those changes. Quick note, the City Hall project, and I know this got brought up a couple weeks ago, but it's currently on hold internally. There's been another project that the cost estimates have come in a little bit higher than we had anticipated. So we're investigating funding options for that, and one of them is postponing the City Hall project to provide funding for that other project to see that get completed. And I think Jeff's going to be coming out of that tomorrow.
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah, we'll drill down a little further tomorrow, but essentially the Elizabeth Drive road portion of the project is quite a bit more expensive than when we were originally contemplating. We just got some bad news from the Magellan Pipeline, among other bad news about the project, so we'll put a little bit more out there tomorrow. Mr. Lang was working on that this week with HR Green. So we were already, as you know, at the last committee meeting, trending for delaying City Hall, and now it looks like it's just a certainty regardless of anything with this other added cost. So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Artie Woods?
Two questions. One is probably easy, but the community park, just to clarify, I know Director Lane talked about the cleanup we can do in-house, but that's officially pushed off, right? That's not in here anywhere for fiscal year 27, right? There's no budget for that?
Director Wilson?
So the budget for that this year was just some design services.
Right.
There was no, aside
Other than
from
that, there's
Mr.
no-
Lang. Correct, yeah.
And then the second question, the sale of city property for 500,000 proposed, what is that?
Commercial in Wooddale, that's south,
Got
that portion.
Thank you.
Mayor, please.
Regarding Elizabeth, but we had the bid opening, or the bid openings coming for the multipath, that's still going,
Mr. Murmas?
right?
Yeah, there's two parallel tracks.
Right, okay.
The walking path, bike path, that's fine, nothing out of the ordinary with that. You all remember that we've got this gas pipeline that runs
Right.
along the road portion, a little bit of a headache with that one. So path is fine, the other one turning into a headache.
Thank you. Please, Are you good? No, please continue. You think he's good?
Okay. Land acquisition, my second favorite slide in the deck. No expenses anticipated in here for this fund for this particular year. And it has a zero fund balance, so it's just kind of there. Going on to the enterprise funds, we have 3 of those: the commuter parking lot, the sanitation fund, which is the garbage, the Flood Brothers contract, effectively money in, money out, and the sewer operating, which we'll get to here in a minute. Commuter parking lot, pretty much status quo, just decrease in contractual, again, just based upon the new contracts and consolidation of services, then a couple of other just nominal changes elsewhere in there.
Alderman Artie Woods.
For the commuter parking lot, the packet talked a lot about how bad ridership is down pre or post-COVID. Is it still as bad as it was, or what percentage? I mean, I don't really drive by the parking lot during a weekday to check it out, but is it half empty? What I'm getting at, is there anything else? If it is half empty and we own the property, is there anything else? I don't know what you could really do with the parking lot. Are there building opportunities? I know it's residential right behind it. Are there other things we could do with it?
Director Wilson.
Yeah, I would have to check so I know the permitted lots are down still probably 75% from pre-COVID. I mean, we were selling every pass we had, all 225 pre-COVID, and now probably if we sell 50, that's probably a lot. I think the daily ridership is, I'd say, kind of on par with pre-COVID, ... That's because people aren't buying the passes, so they're riding daily. So because, you know, the work from home and things like that, so they don't need the pass. So the daily ridership numbers, again, about the same, but with the permit being down that, 75% or whatever, it's because they've just kind of migrated to once or twice a week. So I think, overall, yeah, it's still quite a bit down.
And is the city required to maintain that whole thing as a metro parking lot, or do we have, I'm not suggesting we do anything, I don't even know what the numbers are, and it's a weird piece of property, but
Fair.
is there potential to do anything else, or are we just locked in forever that that's a metro parking lot?
Director Wilson.
Like the
Yeah.
whole thing, I'm saying, I'm not suggesting.
So one interesting note is that we actually own the parking lot. A lot of the Metro lots are owned by Metra, and then the towns rent them back from Metra and give them a portion of the revenue and whatnot. But we actually own that lot. So I would think, I haven't looked at the covenants, I don't know. Yeah, I presume we would be free to do something with it, but I agree with your assessment that it's kind of a weird looking lot.
Mr. Murmas?
Yeah.
That idea has come up in the past, actually, so there is some flexibility for that, I believe, when we looked at it in the past, depending on what route we want to go. But yeah, I think we do have
Just
flexibility.
thinking. Thank you.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
So pre-COVID, it was full though, right? So why would we jump to something so quickly post-COVID without allowing time for that commutership to reconvene?
Director Wilson. Mr. Murmas.
Yeah, like Alderman Artie Wood said, we're not jumping to anything, I don't think. I would say that if anything over there was some previous maybe interest in some residential from developers way back when, but I don't see anything on the immediate horizon. And also post-COVID, the workplace has changed a little bit with the commuters from downtown out to the suburbs. So we'll see, nothing imminent, but I do think we have options down the road if we want to explore.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting either. I just brought it up if we have a half-empty parking lot and it's been 5 years since COVID, just an idea of maybe tax revenue from something, but just spitball. Not suggesting we do anything, but hey, no. I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
Sure. Sanitation fund, again, this is largely money in, money out from the Flood Brothers contracts. This is billed to the residents on their monthly utility bill. We collect those funds. There is the transfer to the general fund in here. Again, the increase in contractual is just due to the increase in the contractual price from Flood Brothers. believe this is actually the last year of that contract, so you'll be seeing some information about that probably this summer or fall, I would imagine. Was it?
It's up in April.
Yeah, 27, yeah, so there'll be information on renewal bid, whatever. There'll be information coming out this calendar year on that.
Mayor Police?
Yeah, Brad, so the general fund the interfund transfers used to be 200, I know we lowered it to 150, came down to 130. Now you're lowering it again. Why not just leave it at 130 since the fund balance, you're still at 278, where at one point, before we lowered it from 200, we were 185. I mean, do we need to keep over 250,000 in this account?
Director Wilson?
Not necessarily, no. Just over the last number of years, as the Flood Brothers rate has gone up, we haven't increased the city's rate. So we've kind of just, again, a little bit of a teeter-totter with that to try to keep it flat. But if we wanted to, for a year or two, leave that transfer static at 130, we could certainly do so. If that was the desire.
Just asking a question. I mean, I know we're trying to get the general fund back up, and it's going to take a year or two, but I'm just curious why we just lowered that.
Yeah. Again, that's been how it's been trending with the offset of the rates. But if we wanted to do that, we could certainly do that for a year or two.
Alderman Artwood?
Is there any provisions in the existing contract for an extension at a given rate or a certain increase? Or is it just going to go out to negotiation?
Oh, there's one. I think there's two more, right?
Director Lang?
I think there's two more fives.
Yeah, Brad may want to expand on this, but we did the 5-year extension back in 2022, and I don't recall if there's any provisions to extend it beyond that, or they'd have to be renegotiated.
Director Wilson?
Yeah, I believe there's the possibility of 2 more 5-year extensions at a mutually agreed upon rate or proposal. So similar to what we did back in 22, where we got the proposal from them and discussed it with them. So yeah, it's my understanding I think there's 2 more possible 5-year extensions in there. Again, at a mutually agreed upon extension price, or pricing, I should say.
Follow-up?
Yeah, so without divulging, given where the economy's at, does that seem to be a fair increase with all the things you know that's in the contract now?
Director Wilson?
Given what's been going on in the economy the last few years, the increase for starting May 1, I would say is very favorable, yes. I don't know what their number.
I'm just asking because it seems like then that's kind of stable. That was my suspicion. I didn't know it to be fact because I couldn't remember what those numbers were. But that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
Just,
Go ahead.
I know the mayor brought up the transfer. Is there any want to maintain that, or I didn't hear anything? I just want to make sure we're.
No, I mean, if
Sounds,
one's opposed to that, I think,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense to do that. Alderman Artwood?
So what are we gonna save? I mean,
No.
How much are we gonna change the movement, 20,000, 30,000?
yeah, no, it's-
And what does that do in the big scheme of things?
Director Wilson?
What the mayor was saying was just to leave it at 130, so it would be an additional 20,000 transfer to the general fund, add 20,000 to the.
yeah, it's nominal.
Yeah, I just sometimes if I don't understand what's going on, it's like, well, what's the net gain? But yeah, I don't have a problem.
You don't have a problem to
Whatever, yeah.
at 130?
It's fine.
Anybody else? Or? I just asked, that's all.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Care to share?
Director
Yeah.
Wilson?
Yeah.
Director Wilson?
Sure. So going back a couple slides with the City Hall conversation, the last formal direction that staff had received from the committee was to go out to bid. We had not gone out to bid yet because the bid docs were still being finalized. But now with that information regarding the bridge and the realization that the City Hall project's going to get delayed, technically the last direction we've gotten from the committee was to go out to bid. So we would need to update that direction to not go out to bid for the City Hall project at this time.
I'll update the direction to not go out for bid.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, okay, so we went to the City Hall project. I thought you were still talking about like the garbage contract.
Oh, no, sorry.
or something.
No.
Okay. No, I agree with that.
Okay.
And
Any
police-
opposed
Yeah,
to
anyone have any concerns
Putting
with
that on
that?
hold? Okay.
Okay, so,
Oh, yeah.
You need a motion?
We made the motion and then
yeah, to not go out
To not go out to
for
bid,
the
yeah.
City Hall.
And then seeing-
So then
Mr.
we would
Murphy.
just move it to an out year in the CIP.
Right.
So then we would have the extra capital for any other project like Elizabeth Drive.
So would it be unfunded then for just another year
It's
out there?
just moved out to another year.
Right, because it's,
It's on hold.
right,
It's on-
it's just on hold. Okay.
Okay. All right. Saw concurrence and,
Yes?
we need a voice vote on that, right? We're good.
No, I figured
Okay.
since we were doing the 20,000, we might as well make it official with the other slide.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, perfect.
all right,
Okay.
please continue.
Yeah, going to the water and sewer fund. Summary of the revenues. The addition of the bond proceeds are for the meter replacement leak detection project. You will see, though, the agreement from Verigy and the bonds next week at council, so you'll be seeing those tomorrow in your Friday afternoon packets for next week's council meeting. Miscellaneous is down, about that 900,000. That's where the grant for the Addison Road Water Main project was accounted for. So it's not that we're going down, $900,000 in miscellaneous. That's where the grant was accounted for in there. The only other thing, the interfund transfer, the revenue that's down a little bit related to the water tower. Biggest thing of that is that the water tower is going to be split out over 2 fiscal years, over 27 and 28. So the remainder of that funding will come in fiscal 28 for the water tower. So that's really the reason for that change in the interfund transfer on there.
Alderman Artie Woods.
Really quick, the pension, on page 118, the pension expense for 24 and 25 disappears in 26 and 20, what is that?
Director Wilson?
Yeah, it's an audit adjustment. So we present it there because if we don't, then the water fund won't balance when we do the fund balance presentation or the net asset presentation. But it's an adjusting entry through the water fund for, use that as the, just make sure I'm giving you the right. Yeah, it's for the OPEB, the other post-employment benefits. Again, it's an accounting entry based on a GASB pronouncement, so it's not necessarily real money that's coming in or out. It's just an accounting entry that we have to book every year.
Sounds interesting. It's not
Oh,
real money.
It's an accounting entry.
So it's accounted for in a different fund for 26 or 27, or it doesn't exist anymore?
We just don't know what the number is.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, because we don't know what the number is until we complete the audit.
Okay.
And then because it's based, it's an actuarial number, so it's kind of fun. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, please continue.
Sure. So the operating expenses, each of these divisions has its own breakout here. I say obviously, but the significant jump in utilities is the meter replacement program. And then the capital, again, without the Addison Road water main, and then the water tower getting split out over 2 years, and again, that was all discussed at the CIP meeting in January. Going to Utilities Division. Items of note, so the decrease in contractual is related to reduction in alarm line fees. I know Public Works, they changed vendors for that, dropped the cost pretty significantly by changing vendors on that. Maintenance agreements, and then maintenance of vehicle costs coming down. Commodities, largely driven by the decrease in water purchase. Again, that's that assumed pickup in lowering the expenses related to that leak detection program. So that's what we're anticipating. We'll purchase less water due to the leak detection program. The principal payments, and that's the estimated first year cost along with the debt service line, which is the interest payments on that. When the deal closes, we'll have a better idea of what that first year looks like, but that's our estimates at this time. Capital outlay, again, that's the Verigy project, the meters. And the interfund transfer, slight increase in the transfer to the SURF funding based on the formula, and a little slight increase to the general fund as well in the Utilities Division.
Alderman Catalano.
Yeah, so those credit card fees, processing fees are going up again. So we're looking at, on page 124, $40,000. Then going back to the community parking lot, another $9,500. So we're looking at, close to $50,000 in processing fees. I know we had a little side talk before the meeting. In the past, we used to charge a fee when they used to pay their water bill with a credit card, but that's stopped now, you said, right? Could you explain maybe what we can do to lower those fees down?
Director Wilson.
Sure. Just quick point to clarification. We had never charged the fee for the Metro lot, so it was $1.50, and we had charged the $2, so that just seemed a little onerous to charge $2 and $1.50. But just to level set on that, the water fund, correct. Well, before we switched to our current merchant processor and payment processing, we had charged a $2 fee for all credit card transactions, whether it was $10 or $15,000. So when we switched to our new merchant processor, we switched to the methodology where anything related to the building department effectively got charged a percentage of that transaction. Because what we had found was that the builders were coming in and doing their $15,000 permit fee.
No way.
Pay their $2 and they get all the points on it.
Right.
So we've changed that now to a percentage. And so that's just a pure pass-through on that. At the time, that $2 fee that we were charging to the water fund, the way it was set up in the new processor system was now not an allowable charge in the state of Illinois. I have to go back and look through my notes, but because there's a service fee, a convenience fee, and a processing fee. So the state of Illinois allowed one of those, but not the other one.
So how does ComEd get away with it? I mean, they charge a fee when you use your credit card.
Director Wilson.
Again, I don't remember which one off the top of my head it is, but they're charging the one that we can charge.
Oh, okay, so let's
Yeah,
charge
so-
it.
Well, I'll have to see with our new merchant processor if they've updated their language in their programming to allow for that, because that was the issue, was that they called it what we couldn't do in Illinois, where previously we had called it what we could. I think you can do the convenience fee, but not the service fee, I think is.
Okay.
And the current processor, when we established it, the way that it was written into their coding and their language wasn't allowable in the state of Illinois. To your point, like ComEd was, or like we had done it before. So I would have to go back to them and see if that is, if they've updated that language or the ability to charge that fee in Illinois. Because each state's a little bit different, and so.
So we can get those fees down, right? If we,
Director Wilson.
If we were to be able to charge that, then if the council were to want to institute a fee for that again, then we could be able to offset those to some extent. I will say the residents have enjoyed not having to pay a fee. So just, yeah.
again, we don't want to give points to go on vacation, right?
Alderman Artie-Woods.
On page 122, under contractual services, the first one, alarm line. I'm happy about this, but how did we go from $15,500 for the alarm line down to $3,000? What is that?
I'll let Mr. Lang or Ms. Warren, I think that was
Okay.
the Johnson to Norcom, I think.
I'm looking at 122 under contractual services, the first line.
Yeah.
Director Lang?
Yeah, the telephone alarm line. We recently switched from using Johnson Controls to having Norcom install radios that dispatch directly to AC/DC, so we were able to save some significant funding on that.
That's awesome. I was just making sure that was right. Thank you.
Thank you. Please continue.
I would say I had to double check that number too, because it's a big drop, yeah. If there's the notes on that. Wastewater division. Increase in commodities, which is kind of the one that jumps off the page, is related to energy costs, so electricity costs. I guess I'll just say, treatment plant uses a lot of power. I guess I'll just say that. And so when those rates went up last summer with the NJP issue, that really impacted the treatment plant ComEd costs in here. Principal payments, interest payments, again, those effectively net to zero. The interfund a little bit to SURF, a little bit to the general fund, and other was related to depreciation costs. So really, in the wastewater, the only thing really that really changed of note was, like I said, that increase in the electric utilities. And again, that's just driven by what ComEd is charging us. And we are on an auction rate, but that, like I said, that went up too, just because of the spike in energy costs this year.
Please continue.
There's the notes. Capital division, again, discussed back in January. The significant work in the water and sewer capital. So water tower, continued I&I work, some money there for the South Plant blower, and SCADA upgrades. Those are the big ticket items in the water and sewer capital for this year. That's it for the enterprise business type funds. Is the SURF, and I'll take a look real quick. Yeah, so on the water side, looks like out next fiscal year 28 is placement of a flusher that's on 135, and then a couple years out from that, in 32 looks like the TV truck. So this year's the Utilimaster. I'm not sure what the Utilimaster is. If Mr. Lang wants to tell us what the Utilimaster is, I'm not sure what that is.
That's the big box truck we use on water main breaks that holds all the tools and equipment. But other than that, large ticket items, there's a few more plow trucks over the next 5 fiscal years that'll need to be replaced. There's an end loader that may need to come up in that time, and then another backhoe.
And those all have the point system, like with the other vehicles, when they're,
Correct.
the repair costs are exceeding and, things. So those are all rated as well as looking at the estimated time frame, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then what's the availability on getting those specialty kind of trucks? Is it still behind, like where you have to order?
No, it hasn't really been bad. The equipment hasn't been bad. The plow trucks, the Peterbilts that we purchased, the chassis are more readily available, but the build-out time, I think after COVID, production ramped up, so the chassis became available, but then they started getting backed up for the build-outs. So I think the build-out's still, 6 months out for the other ones, so.
Okay. Well, at least it's not 3 years or whatever your other one was, so thank you. Alderman Artie Woods?
One thing that stood out, everything we own, but the only one we lease is the transit pace van, a 2018. One, I guess, is there a reason why we lease and don't buy? And then two, I would imagine that's got to be replaced sometime. If we're at 8 years, I don't know how long those are good for.
Director.
That was actually just replaced within the past couple of years. I don't remember exactly when, if it was 1 or 2 years ago, but it was just recently replaced. And that's a partnership program with PACE for the Dial Ride program.
That's why they lease it
Yes.
through them, okay. But
Director Wilson?
I would just say the lease is $100 a month, so that's also part of the reason we
I
don't
just
buy them.
figured there was a reason that's the only, but the vehicle is a 2018?
That must not have gotten updated
Okay.
in the surf, yeah. It's within the last couple of years it was
Okay.
replaced.
I thought we did like a 10-year lease or something. It was good. Thank you.
Alderman Artwood?
Yeah, page 135, the top of the page. I don't know if anybody else is just like mine, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're all,
Correct.
I just thought, maybe I was,
Director Wilson?
I'll just say that that will be resolved in the final version.
Trying to squeeze some cars in there.
yeah.
I was just going to say, maybe a Hyundai this time. Who knows?
Same companies, right? So,
Please continue.
thank you. Really, the last one is the fiduciary fund, which is the police pension fund. As I stated, the special service area fund was closed out and at a zero balance, so there's no activity in there, so there's no active special service areas. Police pension fund, the money, what was it, October, I think, did go through the consolidation process and is now part of the, Chief, do you want to talk about that? And then the only increases here are just, well, no, you could still go ahead. Give you walking music. Are just, the investment expenses related to that, and then the other is benefit payments for the retirees, so.
Chief Zito?
Yeah, October of 2024 is when we had to move the money into the consolidated fund managed by the state of Illinois.
Oh, he's just right under the wire. Alderman Artwood?
Yeah. So since we've moved that money, how is that fund doing relative to your experience with us managing it? Is it on par, a little better, subpar?
I knew you were going to ask this question.
I almost didn't, but I saw you smiling when you sat down. Went, no.
So for the calendar year ending 2025, the fund was at a just over 21% return rate for that year. Currently, year to date, ending of February of 26, it's just under 18%. And since we moved that money in October of 2024, to date, end of February, it's at 13% return.
Follow-up?
So when you say return, is the return exclusive of the investment, or it's the totality of officers' input, right? Their contributions, I would say, plus investment income.
Chief Zito?
That's exclusive of the investment income itself.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Director Wilson? Thank you. Thank you for your very thorough presentation, as always, and all the work that has gone into everything. I'm just thanking him for all the work, so. You had some direction for some changes too, so Director Wilson?
Yeah, two things. One, I'd like to thank everybody behind me for their hard work on this, because without them, this and everything we do is impossible. So thank everybody behind me and anybody else in their departments that assisted with the process. And then we would need a motion to recommend moving the budget forward to council as amended.
I'll make that motion to move the budget forward to council as amended.
Second.
Alderman Artwood?
So when we say amend it, and I'll say personally, thank you to everybody. It's harder to do the budget when you're, got a deficit and fix those holes, so kudos to everybody. But, so does the budget as amended, that's eliminating City Hall project, pushing that down? And then is it adding on, or we don't know what the number is for the possible Elizabeth Park? I guess I'm trying to get an understanding of what since we're making one move, kind of, are we actually doing it? And then B, so that money would sit at the side, whatever is left, that we could throw at the other thing when it comes and we see how it is.
Director Wilson.
Yeah, so the City Hall project getting moved back, that 1.3 million, 1.2, would effectively just go into the fund balance for the capital projects fund. And then if it needs to get allocated to the bridge project, then it would get allocated to the bridge project. If it doesn't, then it would just sit there and roll over to next year and be available for use again for a different project. Caveat, I said the bridge project. It would be able to be used for any project, but we've identified the bridge as the likely use for that, given the cost information that we've received. But it's that, we would pull it back from the City Hall project, it would just go into fund balance, and then be free to be assigned to a project as we see fit or as needed.
Mayor, please.
So regarding the bridge, I see, and I already noticed there's potholes right around the bridge. Are we anticipating this being pushed back, or we going out to bid? We seem a little very hesitant. Sounds like we got more news coming.
Mr. Murmas.
Multi-pronged approach, more information tomorrow. It probably will get pushed back a little bit. I don't know if it's a substantial pushback, but we're working with our lobbyist and we're working with HR Green, trying to get different funding sources, trying to get more information. We're still working with the pipeline to see if it's a certainty, what they're saying. So there's a lot of balls up in the air right now, so it's hard to commit, other than the fact that there is a bigger price tag hanging out there just from the original estimate, which was years ago, not even counting the pipeline. So, and we do get it inspected. I believe it's annually. We look at the marking.
Oh, that was my next question. Okay.
Alderman Artwood.
Yeah, Brad, you, when we said hold off the City Hall project, you mentioned a number of 3 million. Is that the number that would be held?
I think it's at 1.3.
It's 1 point.
Okay.
Plays at
I thought you
1.3.
said- I thought you just said a couple of minutes ago, or a minute ago, you used the number 3 million. I always understood the project to be 1.2 or 1.5, but my
Director.
ears perked up because you said 3 million.
Oh, I thought I said 1.3.
Okay, maybe you didn't, I misheard,
Okay, yeah.
or maybe you inadvertently said 3. But
Maybe I
okay,
did,
so
yeah, but
clarity.
Not 3, yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
all right, that's,
well, let me get
you
the,
could have said 1.3 and I only heard the 3, which perked up my ears. Oh, wait a second. Where did the 3 come? Because then I'm less concerned if we got 3 million floating around.
there. Sorry. 37. 1.24
Yeah.
is the number, yeah,
Okay.
so if I did say 3, that, my apologies, I don't.
Yeah, again, maybe I just misheard.
Okay.
I just wanted to be some clarity.
Okay, so roll call.
Just real quick.
Oh, Director Wilson?
Just, again, just for clarity, so is the City Hall and the 20,000 transfer in sanitation, that was also, saw consensus on that. So those were the two as amended.
As amended, yes.
Yeah.
Alderman Artwood?
Yeah, and my final question, I hope. So all the news that's coming out tomorrow, in the, I'm assuming in the packet or manager's newsletter, my favorite, that's going to have the TIF stuff, update on Elizabeth, some of the bigger pieces.
Mr. Murmas?
Update on Elizabeth will be relatively small, basically a little bit more than what we talked about tonight, but pretty much the same. And then the long-anticipated TIF report for winter 2026. We still had a couple days left in winter, so we'll get it to you tomorrow.
No.
Just in time.
Backsliders.
Okay. Good. Roll call, please.
Alderman Catalano.
Yes.
Alderman Artie Woods, sorry.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ames.
Yes.
Alderman Fasano.
Yes.
Alderwoman Fonseca.
Yes.
Alderman Carr.
Yes.
And Alderman Artwood.
Yes.
And that passes. Are there any items to be considered for future meetings? Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Nice.